Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. This week, we are covering Mistborn, The Final Empire, chapters 30, chapters 35 and 36. I almost lost it. The beginning of part 5, which is Believers in a Forgotten World. See, I was there. I knew exactly what chapters they were. It was fine. I am Data, and with me is...
It's Joe.
Jaymee.
And Dak.
In these chapters, Vin starts out really sad, then she gets kind of glad, and then things turn bad. And that was the end of my rhyme.
Wow.
What a summary.
This episode brought to you by Dr. Zeus.
It sounded like you said Dr. Zeus, like the god of thunder and lightning.
Oh.
So
Somebody
then I
just
had
told me, like, yesterday that his name was originally supposed to be pronounced Dr. Seuss.
Interesting.
Nah.
Hey, we're learning.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power.
Anyway, lots of things happen in this episode, people. So hang on to something. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
My revolution carries me in a moment lost in time. My revolution sets me free. I will flow across the lines. Bring them the brother in me. I'm searching for you.
Okay, so yes, a lot of things really start to kind of heat up in this episode. I mean, we kind of said that about last week, but I feel like it's gotten to another new level. One which somebody kind of predicted some of these things last week. So, what did you guys think of these chapters overall?
Oh man, never have my predictions paid off so splendidly so quickly. No, I really enjoyed these chapters. Again, I'm sad that my most desired prediction was that they switched places, the Kandra and Kelsier, but that's not the way it happened, unfortunately. But he left a lot of hope behind, and I really appreciated that kind of piece of Kelsier. His character, at least not yet. There's still possibility for tarnishment, but his character hasn't been tarnished. He died a somewhat noble death, all things considered, at least as far as we know. So I was really happy with the first chapter. And then, things start going bad very quickly. And it seems like a lot of our predictions are bearing fruit now. So I'm excited to read the end of the book.
Mm-hmm. So wait, I got to stop for a second. So you're like, at least when you said Kelsier died a noble death or whatever, at least that's what it seems now. Do you think that something's going to come out that it wasn't? Or do you think that he still might not be dead somehow?
I mean, it could. I feel like the Kandra was pretty clear that he had to suck up his bones. So that seems pretty straightforward that he is dead. But, I don't know.
I would hope so anyway.
World.
Yeah, that would suck.
I don't know the magic of this world. I don't know how he could come back to life, or maybe he could be reborn from the mist or some kind of spirit, like a Jedi thing. I have no idea.
We don't understand the science of the bone vacuums.
Right, exactly. I also like that it paid off that the Kandra, because at the very beginning when we heard about Renault, we're like, well, maybe he's a mist wraith, and then they kept throwing the Kandra word around, so I'm glad that got paid off as well.
Yeah,
it all came back around together.
Yeah, I would agree with Joe this week. I think it was nice to have a few of the thoughts that we've been throwing around for a while come to fruition and seeing how they're panning out. I'd sort of given up that we would ever find out what the Kandra was or the significance of the gold, and it's nice to see how they're all coming back in together and coming back into play. So, yeah, I look forward to what answers we'll get in the next few chapters as well.
Mm.
I really liked these chapters. Yeah, it's good just to start getting some solid answers that we've been wondering about for ages with the Kandra, Mistwraith, and Renault. I thought it was an interesting way to play out with Renault taking over his body, because like I said last week, I hadn't considered that option until you guys brought it up. So I was intrigued to see how it played out, and now I'm just curious about so what else is he gonna do? Like, when does his contract run out? And then we didn't get that answer, but then we went into Vin doing some of the most badass shit she's done so far. Like, I know it's only a minor thing, really, because she wound up getting captured, but she faced down a couple of Inquisitors and threw dust at them, and that was enough to fuck them up. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, she put up a pretty good fight against them, against two of them.
She did, and it wasn't at all through like brute strength or anything. She like thought ahead and planned ahead and did some clever stuff and took him
Yeah,
out.
she played that very smart, and I thought she did really well in that. Ultimately futile because she got captured by the time shifting Lord Ruler and his cronies, but or whatever the hell that is. But yeah, and then that ending is just like, well, that's a terrifying image.
Yeah. Vin felt very Batman to me with those scenes where she like plans ahead and preps
Yeah,
and then goes in.
Very much.
I like that. Okay, well, let's get into these chapters. Now, the epigraph at the beginning of part 5 here, I actually like a whole lot because it is the first time that they give us even an inkling of what this guy is trying to do. Because we've heard, he's trying to destroy the deepness. He's going up into the mountains to find the Well of Ascension, which is somehow supposed to beat the deepness. But we've never gotten like even a hint about what's going to happen when he gets to the well. What is it exactly that he's supposed to do? And here he says, I know what will happen if I make the wrong choice. I must be strong. I must not take the power for myself, for I have seen what will happen if I do. And so it's the first time, it's still very cryptic, but it's the first time we've gotten any sort of hint about like what he's actually trying to do on this whole trek.
Tempting with power. That old chestnut.
So we start out and Vin is just, she's angry and depressed and she's hanging up above the roof in the mist, just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm going to like float myself up here and be invisible so no one will find me. As she like considers Kelsier and she's all mad at him for dying. She's like, does anything even matter?
Boy, yeah, that's rough. It's like she just started to trust this surrogate father of hers, and now he's gone. It sucks.
Yeah. And she's even like, it's the same as before when Reen had abandoned her. What was the difference? At least Reen had been honest. That's kind of sad.
At least Reen was a dick.
Yep. And I don't know, did you guys expect that we would see Reen before the end of this book? Because we've only got 2 chapters left at this point. It does not seem likely. So
Unless we've already met him and we don't know.
Ooh.
I have nothing to back that up. I'm just making shit up at this point. Trying to come up with better predictions since mine all suck.
Well, I don't know. Maybe
the guy that Kelsier talked to, like Hoyd or whatever from way back when.
Maybe
this is a random pull, random throw out crackpot theory. Maybe the Inquisitor that like already knew that was her dad is Reen.
I mean, it could be.
Because that guy didn't even really get the knowledge straight from Vin. He just was like, no, this is the High Prelim's daughter. This is her.
Yeah, he definitely seemed to know what he was talking about. He seemed pretty confident, or he wouldn't have put on that whole show.
Yeah. So either that's Reen or that's the Inquisitor that killed Reen.
Ooh. Okay. Anyway. Sorry, just they mentioned Reen, and we hadn't really talked about him in a while, except to say that he sucks. So I was just curious here.
He's definitely coming back, or something about him is going to become important either towards the end of this book or like one of the next books. But like his role in the story is not complete yet.
I'm still holding out hope that he just shows up and he's like, hey, you're doing pretty well for yourself, Vin. Why don't you lend your old brother some money?
Yeah. When you said complete, it just made me think of something dark side. something complete.
Well, Lord Rule's probably doing shit like that.
Yeah, probably.
So Sazed comes and finds her, and she's like, no, Kelsier sucks. He wasn't cool after all. And Sazed is like, oh, come on. You don't mean that. And he has kind of a little speech about faith and belief, and how it doesn't really have any value if you don't keep believing even when things get tough.
Cue Journey.
Which I feel like Sazed has to have that sort of opinion based on his whole deal. It totally makes sense for him.
Faith is kind of what he deals in.
Yeah. And so he tells her that everyone is planning to leave Luthadel separately, including himself, because he has to go and deliver knowledge to the other keepers, and she is not allowed to go. So basically, Vin is going to be on her own.
And she doesn't like it.
No. This is not helping her abandonment issues.
And I just found my people.
But then things start to happen. There's a gathering of Ska in the mists, and one of them stands up and doing this whole preacher thing where he's like, talking about how, all of our people were killed, these hundreds of people, and they're just lying dead in the street, and the Lord Ruler isn't even going to clean up his mess. And they have this whole thing about, Kelsier beat an Inquisitor, and then he died. And he's like, yeah, and did we help him? There were thousands of us there. We didn't do anything, which is a fair point. Like you take 1,000 people, it would have been a lot easier to kill that Inquisitor probably. I don't know.
So it's like the Bugs Life theory. They're scared of the grasshoppers, but then they realize there's way more of us than there are of them. Like if we really wanted to, we could just kill them.
Acorn principle. Just had the image we were all there, we were watching. What do we do to help? Oh fuck yeah! Why didn't we think of that? We could have actually done something.
Why didn't you say anything then, dude?
There's a thing we listened to, a comedy retelling of the Lord of the Rings, and at one point it's got Faramir's the only one who shoots down the flying ring wraith because he's the only one who has a bow, and all the other archers are just oh fuck, why didn't I think of that? Guess that's why he's the boss, huh? This just made me think of that.
Yeah, sure. They get the rest of the crew, and the guy is like, I'm telling you people, Lord Kelsier appeared to me this very night and said that he would always be with us. So at that point, were you guys thinking about that theory from the previous episode when it's or I don't know, what did you think?
I thought that this guy he probably did see something.
Yep. He definitely saw something.
Yeah, I mean, when we got to this part, I was like, okay, well then I feel like one of my Kelsier Renault theories is correct, and then
I guess it could still be either one at that point. Yeah.
Right. So then we find out later which one it is.
And everybody finally starts to get what was happening. Doxson kind of first. He's like, this was Kelsier's plan the whole time. And says he always asked me the same questions, what made religion so powerful? And I said, because they had something or someone that they felt passionate about. And Doxson realizes also immediately, he's like, he knew that we wouldn't agree to it if we knew the plan, because he knew that he was going to have to die to make it work. And Vin gets the idea to go to this nearby warehouse where he was supposedly having informant meetings, and they run down there and find that it is full of weapons that he has prepared. Kelsier really planned this stuff out, and that's when Renew shows up.
He did plan it. He planned it out. He wrote everything down. But what if they hadn't thought to go to that warehouse?
He says in the letter that he leaves behind, which we're not quite to, he says the soothing station should already be gone. Renew delivered the order to our assassin teams before he came to get you to bring you here.
Oh, so I guess they showed up before Renault actually was going to come and bring them.
Yeah.
Renault's just oh, thank God, you guys saved me an extra trip.
So, we finally get an explanation of what the Kandra are when this guy shows up wearing Kelsier's body, and she's like, Kelsier, and Ham's like, no, that's not him. And he explains, this is why Kelsier hired him in the first place, to take his bones once he was dead and appear to his followers to give them strength. And we find out that he is a Mistwraith, although he says a Kandra, a Mistwraith that has grown up, you might say.
That made me really happy to know that that's what it was.
Yeah?
Yep. I was like, oh, finally, we have an answer. Don't tell me there's two bone-eating blobs out there, that are completely different from each other. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that makes when you put it that way, don't tell me there are two bone blobs out there. It makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Damn bone blobs.
And this just gives credence to the wild theories of the country ska that the mist race can take your face, because they literally can. Mm-hmm. If they're smart enough, they can make themselves look like another person.
Yeah.
Which is frankly super terrifying.
Yeah, it explains the Scar just no, don't go out in the mist, they'll kill you and take your face. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing, although I don't know, are the Kandras out in the countryside just total dicks because then they come back to fuck with the family?
that would
yeah.
That's true.
That's just how they get their kicks, is it?
I'm still wondering, though, what the contract entailed. Was Kelsier hey, man, after they're all dead, you can have all the nobleman's bones? And he's like, hell yeah.
Yeah. We don't know exactly what the contract entails. You are correct. Let's see. The contract explains that Kelsier was preparing them all. Bureaucrat for Doxson, politician for Breeze, general for Ham. For a new nation, it will need men of your individual talents. And Vin, like in her thoughts, I guess, is specifying several times that this thing seems really like passionless and like flat, which is weird because when he was playing the character of Renu, he was really Renu. Like he played into that character hard. He was constantly like pretending to be this noble guy. It seemed like doing a really good job of pretending to be this noble in every respect, even when nobody was watching, basically. And now he's just like,
even when everyone in the room knew he wasn't that person.
Well, we never actually met the real Renault, right? So we don't know
it's true.
what his personality was like. But I'll also say, I wonder if he just didn't get, maybe there's like an amount of time it takes for him to completely like absorb everything about that person.
Mm-hmm.
Or because Kelsier wasn't sure when he was going to die, they never really like had time to talk about these are my mannerisms, this is how I talk, these are my intonations. Maybe he has to actually like train to do that somehow.
Yeah, could be. I mean,
I guess the two for Renault, like there were times where he was in front of people who weren't aware that he wasn't Lord Renault. So for him to consistently be one way just meant he didn't stuff it up.
You don't have to worry about getting back into character if you're always in character.
Method acting, Chandra.
Method acting, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
The Daniel Day-Lewis of Kandra. And also, another thought I had was maybe Kelsier just like, because Vin knew Kelsier so well, she's like, this imposter doesn't fool me.
True.
Yeah, that's a good point. We only get Vin's perspective on it, so we get Kelsier's letter that he left for everyone, basically giving them assignments. You know, you're going to take a team and go and kill the rest of the men at the garrison. He says subdue, but come on. Ham's going to take a team and take out the rest of the great houses that are still standing. Dockson's going to coordinate. Clubs is going to lead the assault on the palace itself. And he ends with, I think that's everything. It was a fun job, wasn't it? When you remember me, please remember that. Please remember to smile. And then he says, may you rule in wisdom. That's a nice final message.
That was a good line.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice, but at the same time, he's putting a lot of pressure on them.
Oh, yeah. He's like, I don't have to be here to see how, like, do the difficult part of actually creating and running a new nation and taking out the Lord Ruler. Have fun with that, guys. And Vin gets and we find out that Clubs has some military experience. We don't get any details on it, just that's why he has a limp, because of something that happened.
I think we still really don't know much about Clubs after all this, which is kind of sad because we don't really have.
Really,
I don't think there's much time left in the book, and events don't allow for us to learn much more, which is kind of sad. I want to know more about this guy.
Yeah, I hope he's like a secret badass. Like he, again, to the equivalent for me. Here we go, Final Fantasy time. The equivalent for me is Final Fantasy X. He feels like an Auron character to me.
I knew you were going to say Auron.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great character. He's grizzled, old, but a badass.
Also dead, but
yeah, well, I mean,
but he's perfect.
I'm just waiting for him to step up like Uncle Iroh at some point. It's like you think, oh, you know, he's old, he's a bit past it, and then all of a sudden he's just going to start breathing fire at people.
It's going to turn out that copper lets you breathe fire if you use it just right.
Yeah, I think it would be more badass if Clubs was a ghost.
We got Chandra already. Ghost might be going a little far.
Hang on, what? Like, bone-taking mist people is perfectly acceptable, but ghost? Oh, no, that's too far.
No, I just mean, like, Kelsier is, kind of quote-unquote, back from the dead because the Khandra ate his body and is pretending to be him. So then if you also have ghosts coming back from the dead, and we had the theory last week that Inquisitors were made of dead people, so, like, you know, Soylent Green Inquisitors. So it's just, there's a lot of zombies. It's scary. Then we get Vin's note that he left specifically for her about how originally you were going to assassinate the remaining high nobleman, but you convinced me maybe that doesn't need to happen. Here's what's left of the 11th medal. I could never figure out how to make it do anything useful, and it must not have worked when I faced the Lord Ruler. So now we see why we didn't see him burning or having any sort of allomancy against Lord Ruler, because apparently he was trying to use the 11th medal and was ineffective, as far as we saw anyway. Who knows what it might have done.
Kelsier used 11th medal. It's not very effective.
Well, he didn't write this note after he died, so he hadn't tried it yet. So he's like, obviously it didn't work, but he probably saw something.
Yeah, we don't know. Well, we'll get to the 11th medal in a minute because Vin uses the 11th medal in a minute, and then we can talk about it. Please don't get angry at me for abandoning you. I should have died in Mare's place years ago. You have to protect everyone from the assassins the nobility will send after our new kingdom. And then the final line, which really gets me, and is just so, where he's like, farewell, I'll tell Mare about you. She always wanted a daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm not crying. Shut up.
And then Mare's just like, you left our daughter alone? You left her with Breeze?
You left her with Breeze.
He's the worst.
Come on, Breeze isn't that bad. He's going to be the politician in the new world. Okay, yeah, that's pretty bad. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put it on a scale, he's under in badness. He's under Inquisitor at least.
Yeah. So you're like, I'll give you that much, Breeze. You're not Inquisitor material. Oh gosh.
Breeze is fine. He's just an easy target.
Yeah, that's why they were making fun of him earlier and talking about his butt. We remember that. Let's see. And she's like, oh, yeah, he didn't know how to defeat the Lord Ruler. And Dox is like, it's fine. We have an entire city full of people. He can't kill them all. I seriously doubt he can kill us all. He's not even sure. He's like, probably not, right? Put him in the dungeon. But, yeah, Vin decides that she needs to be their assassin, and she is going to go and take down the Lord Ruler. Or at least go. Her plan is to go to that room, she tells Sazed, and find out, like, what his weakness is finally. And she starts picking up just an odd assortment of things, like breaking off some stone arrowheads and taking some pieces of chainmail armor, and then a big bag of pewter dust. Did you guys have any idea what she was going for as she collects these various things?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, I like how. Who is it that's still with her at this point? Is it Doxson? Yeah.
Well, Doxson's also in the room, but Sazed is the one she's talking to.
Yeah, Sazed is like, what are you doing?
She's just like, I'm worried about the Lord Ruler. I'm going to go do this thing. That would have been a fun place if you could stop for predictions there. It'd be like, okay, so she took this, and this. What do you think she's going to do with this? She making a cocktail? I don't know. But that is the end of the chapter. She's like, tonight, I'm going to find out what's inside of that room. So it's kind of a setup chapter because no real actual action happens. But at the same time, it's like, this is the beginning of the citywide revolution. This is where it really starts, which is kind of cool. Let's look at the next epigraph. I've decided I'm thankful for Rashek's hatred. It does me well to remember there are those who abhor me. And he's like, I'm not supposed to be popular or loved. I'm supposed to help mankind survive. Which that part sounds kind of like the Lord Ruler.
Yeah.
So she walks up and she handles the guards outside of Kredik Shaw very differently from how Kelsier did. And it's kind of a nice thing to see.
I really liked this. It sort of had that message from Kelsier that was like, you showed me you didn't have to go and kill all the noblemen and all that sort of stuff, and taking in what she'd learnt about these guards, that they kind of went into this because their families would be murdered and all that sort of stuff, to rather than fight them, to appeal to this side of them. I thought was really cool.
Mm-hmm. And it totally works, which is a good bonus. Yeah. The square. I like how she's already named. She's like, they're gathering in the square of the survivor. And so I was like, what's that? And she's like, oh, the place where the survivor of Hathsin was killed earlier today. Like, we renamed it when in the last 5 minutes, just what we do. And she tells us, like, they're still unsure. And she's like, you don't have to live with the guilt anymore. And that does it. Well, she also riots their emotions slightly to get them on board. But she's learned from the best on manipulating people's emotions. And then I also like that you get to the guard room that they murdered all those guards in before, and they're all in there talking and stuff, and she just walks through and, like, shoots herself down the hall. Like, I don't need to deal with them. It's fine.
Yeah, they all get up and be like, wait a minute.
And she gets to the room, and there's 2 Inquisitors standing there. There always just seem to be 2 Inquisitors hanging around this room. Like, every time they show up. I guess there were 3 that last time.
Well, now we know why.
Well, today at least is, because the Lord Ruler's in there. This must be one of those, like, the 3rd day when he goes in there every 3 days. She didn't have that schedule like Kelsier did. You have to imagine, if she knew this was one of the days the Lord Ruler was going to be in that room, she might have been like, okay, let's not do that tonight.
Maybe tomorrow's the time.
Let's wait till tomorrow. I should get some sleep. I was just going to say, it just surprised me how, like, this chapter's barely started, like, and it's like, all right, going to the palace, and, like, there's a little scene with the guards, which is great, and then boom, Inquisitor's right there. It's just like there's no preamble, no build up. It's like, yep, getting straight into it. And I'm like, oh, holy shit.
There's no time for build-up anymore. We're 91% of the way through the book at this point.
I know, it's just very much I'm going to the palace. Page later, Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely all happening very quickly. We
How
started.
tall they are as well.
Yeah, they're taller than normal people, but also Vin's really short, so
Yeah, I guess.
that doesn't help. The Inquisitor says, we searched all this time, and you come to us a second time. So they've been looking for her, and she does this really cool, clever, badass little move where she puts the metal rings around the hafts of the arrow and then pushes the arrowheads at them with the metal. And when they push back, it knocks the metal rings off, but the arrowheads keep flying and rip through them. Rip through one guy into the next guy behind him, which is once again just like a really cinematic, like, I want to see this.
Yeah.
And then you go into a slow-mo shot that like rotates around as like you see what's happening with the rings pushing it'd be so much fun. The fights in this series in general are pretty cinematic, I feel like.
He paints a good word picture.
I think so. A lot of actually objection to Brandon that you read online is that his prose is not as subtle and
Oh yeah.
stuff as other people. But
I think we talked about this before. It's like I don't need Dickens. This is fantasy.
nobody needs Dickens. It's fine.
It's like we're just after a good story told well, and this is telling it well.
Yeah, personally, I like the straightforward approach. But it's definitely different from like Rothfuss, which is the example I always hear him put against, where Rothfuss is just super. The words are kind of art, and it's good. I like that a lot, actually. But I don't feel like everyone needs to be that.
No.
Did you guys hear what came out this week, or was it last week? Something about Rothfuss.
No.
His editor / publisher came out and publicly just like crapped all over him, which is remarkable. Like nobody's ever heard of a professional editor doing something like that to like the author that she came out and she said it's been 9 years and she hasn't read a single word of book 3. She's the editor for the books, but she's also the president of the publishing company that publishes the books. So somebody had linked to the article that always kind of goes around where somebody says basically authors don't owe fans books. Like just because you're waiting a long time for this next book, they don't owe you anything really. You paid for previous books and you got those books. They don't owe you anything additional to that. If they never write another book, then that's their deal.
Yeah, but they do owe their editor.
Well, and she was like, she posts this and she on Facebook and she's like, that's true. They don't owe their reader anything. But what about their publisher who has paid them for these books? And she hasn't read a single word of book 3. And then in the comments on this Facebook post, it went even further. She said stuff like, I don't think he's written anything in 6 years. She said that she doesn't know that he even wants to be a writer anymore at this point. And I think there was even one comment where it was like, he's retired. He just doesn't know it yet.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah, it's really among the community of people waiting for Doors of Stone, the third book in the Name of the Wind series. It's bad because now it's like, so basically, if his editor is to be believed, and who would know better than his editor, except for maybe him, and he won't talk about it, there may have been no progress made on this third book in 6 years. So it may just never come at this point.
Holy shit.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, I was depressed by this, but it's just I still felt it was most remarkable for it's just like, wow, this person, and everyone's like, oh, she's amazing. She's one of the best editors, super professional. Like, if she did this, then there's reason.
She is super pissed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure, like she said, they paid him. He's been paid, and he's given her nothing.
Yeah, it's like no return on your investment.
Yeah, so, yeah, as the president of the publishing company, you definitely have a right to have issues with that, I feel like. So, yeah, that's been the talk of the fantasy book community online for the past week or so, is since that came out.
Damn,
yeah, I mean, if this was, gosh, I mean, if this was the 1400s and a patron paid him to write a book and he never wrote it, they probably have him killed.
That's true. Yeah, I could see that. Imprisoned until he did what he was paid to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's busy with all this other stuff. He has his charity that he runs, and he's an online like D&D celebrity or something. I don't know all the stuff he does. I don't pay attention to any of it because I'm just waiting for the book. But
Right.
anyway,
Well, he used the books to springboard himself into what he wanted to be, which was a nerd icon. He doesn't want to be, like she's saying, he probably doesn't want to be a writer anymore. He just wants to enjoy being famous.
yeah, there's a quote, like some famous quote from some author. I don't remember off the top of my head who it was, but he was like, some people love writing and some people love to be a writer. Just the cachet and the everything that comes with being quote unquote a writer.
I think it was Twain. He said like everyone wants to be a writer, but not everyone wants to have written.
I could see why that would be Mark Twain's outlook on it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Twain. He's the best. But yeah, sorry. We won't necessarily keep going down that road, but it was just, I thought it was an interesting, because the fantasy book community has been all abuzz recently. By the time this episode comes out, it's going to be that's like 2 or 3 week old news. So I'm sorry to everyone who's already like, yeah, duh. But it was relatively fresh when we recorded this. So yeah, probably not getting that book. I'm going to give up. Probably looking for it. But we have Brandon Sanderson, who is the other end of that, who loves writing. And when he gets tired of writing one thing, writes another thing to relax from that thing. So I can love him. It's fine. I mean, I think at this point, we've been waiting, I think 4 years for the next Mistborn book, but he's put out like 5 other books during that time. So while I'm like, I want the next Mistborn book, that's like the one I'm waiting for most, I can't be mad at him because the other books are also amazing.
Yeah, dude's generating content. I mean, he'll get to it.
Sorry, back to the book that we're reading now by him. She impales these guys with arrows, like all the way through the one guy and into the legs of the next guy. And then she has apparently a hunch about how Inquisitor vision works. We talked about that. They have giant spikes through their eyes. How do they see anything? And she throws a handful of pewter dust up into the air. And it says to the Inquisitor stopped, confused. To his eyes, quote unquote, he would see nothing but a mess of blue lines, each one leading to a speck of metal. So it would, all that many lines in one place would be virtually blinding. And a couple paragraphs later, after she stabs him with a dagger while he's distracted, let's see, where she takes him in the thigh with a dagger, and he fell cursing in a crackly voice. That's fun. She says, good thing that worked. Wasn't sure about those eyes of theirs. So basically, based on that, and we don't know for sure that she's 100% right, we just see that it seems to be, they kind of see the metal in things, and that's how they see things.
Basically predator vision, but with metal instead of infrared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it would look a lot like that now you say that.
Yeah, she just sensory overloaded him.
It's like if you lit a bright light when someone was using night vision.
Yep.
Then she flares some pewter and tosses some more dust to keep the remaining Inquisitor from coming after her, and busts through the door. And she finds a room with like a chair in it and a rug made of exotic fur, a hearth burned in the center of the chamber, and the walls are decorated with dyed pelts in strange patterns and old paintings. Which, yeah, if the Lord Ruler had some favorite paintings from 1,000 years ago, they would be pretty old right now. So I can see that.
Well, I mean, he's 1,000 years old. Maybe touching up paintings is one of his hobbies.
Oh, that could totally be what he's doing in here. He's just like painting away.
He's had a lot of time to practice.
Well, yeah. You can get pretty good, maybe. I don't know if intrinsic lack of artistic talent would be overcome by 1,000 years, but you'd probably get as close as you possibly could. Like, I'm so bad at art, I don't think I'd get much better in 1,000 years, but maybe.
Yeah, maybe he was always a good artist.
That's true. He could be.
I feel like if you just dedicate yourself to it and work back and forth, it's like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day and the ice chainsaw thing. It's like he worked hard enough at it because he had the time.
Yep. He got real good at that. And at playing the piano.
Yes.
With 1 lesson a day. That would be crazy. I would probably do the same thing if I found myself stuck. I'm like, I'll learn to play the piano, sure. Okay. The room is packed. She says it has a comfortable, homey feel, like a den or a study. It has a bunch of strange objects, the horns of some foreign beast, a strange pair of shoes with wide, flat bottoms, which sound like snowshoes to me, or sand shoes. Sand shoes are kind of the same thing. And the chair, turns out it pivots, and it turns around slowly, and there's an old man sitting in it, bald with liver-spotted skin.
I had serious Darth Vader with his helmet off vibes.
Yeah, I can totally see that now that you say that.
You say that, it's like, I get the rotating around and everything like that, but then, like, with the description, I was going, Oh, so this is Darth Vader by way of Mr. Burns.
He's got his fingertips pressed together. He's just like,
Excellent.
excellent.
Exactly.
And the Inquisitor comes in. He's like, up to it, Smithers.
I have powers, political powers.
So she's so shocked by this old guy, and she's just like, I gotta get out of here. There's nothing useful here. And the Inquisitor, whose legs got all ripped up a minute ago, shows up and grabs a hold of her. And she's like, they shouldn't be. Even with pewter, how can you walk with legs that messed up that fast? And the old man says, what is this? And the Inquisitor says, I'm sorry, Lord Ruler. And she's like, wait, what? I thought this was the Lord Ruler's grandpa or something. Like, what's going on here?
Father Time took a bat to this guy.
So was this a surprise to anyone? Like, what did you think about this old man? Did you instantly assume he was Lord Ruler?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, this just locked in place Jaymee's explanation of Rashek for me.
Oh, yeah? How so?
I mean, in my opinion, he's obviously he goes to this place to use feruchemy to make himself look older, so then he can turn around and make himself look younger.
Okay. So you think he's like saving up some age here so that he can look younger later. So his real one would be kind of like in the middle of these two somewhere.
Right, which is kind of, I feel like, what she describes when she uses the 11th metal, or I guess technically, if we're saying gold is 9th, what we find out later, this is probably actually the 10th metal. So whatever she's seeing, I think it describes them as kind of, they look similar, but they are younger.
Yeah, kind of. We're about to get to that, so why not? The Inquisitor doesn't want to kill her right away because he has a special interest in this case. May I keep her for a time? And they want to have a meeting regarding the Canton of Orthodoxy. And Lord Ruler's like, oh, again? Seriously? And they're like, the Inquisitor's like, please, Mr. Lord Ruler. And
he's just like he's like a indulgent uncle. He's just like, yeah, okay.
The Inquisitor's
This
her
is the
favorite
last
nephews.
time I'm going to hear this out.
It's like,
As it turns out, it is
how
the
does the
last
Inquisitor
time,
put two puppy dog eyes with spikes?
Spiky dog eyes.
He's like, I can't say no to those spike eyes.
Oh, you're just so cute with your little impalements.
Oh.
You get so happy when you stab people. I just love it.
But finally, she's like, oh, right, I have the 11th medal. Lord Ruler's here. Maybe I'll give it a shot. And at first she says nothing happens. And then she looks up, and there's someone else standing there. And she doesn't associate these two things. She's like, when did that guy come in? He has a full beard and a thick woolen outfit with a fur-lined cloak. Not rich clothing, but well-constructed. And he seems content and happy. He smiles happily. And she says that he looks kind of like the guy that killed Kelsier, except older and more alive, whatever that means. So, based on what you're saying about how its relation to gold, I assume that you're thinking this is like those gold shadows, but for the other guy.
Yeah, it's like, again, one's inner, one's push, one's pull. It's like this metal is pushing onto somebody else what they could have been if they had made different decisions.
Okay.
Which I'm assuming, like, the well-dressed hunter, the well-constructed hunter, is if he had just stayed a terraceman and not chosen the path that he chose. I'm going off that theory. This is Rashek. If he had stayed a terraceman, that's what he would look like. If he had just not done what he did to become the Lord Ruler.
Okay.
Well, like what I wanted from the 9th medal was to sort of see that opposite. Like Adium, you could see, the future, whereas gold was showing you what you could have been, but I really wanted something that was like at the past, and so that you could see the past in someone else. And so I thought maybe that this was actually like Rashek in the past, giving them clues of like who this person is. But because no one knows what he looked like or even about this guy, because Sazed obviously needs to learn more about him and all that sort of stuff. Like they don't know that yet. They wouldn't know what he looks like. So this is sort of telling me this is the representation of who the Lord Ruler was. So we've got to search for, all these signs.
I remember at the time
when
we learned about gold, Jaymee, that you were specifically like, I want to see a version of this metal, like maybe a use of gold that works on somebody else. And so if that's what we're seeing here, it we kind of did. So I will give you this towards your theory. somebody, Joe, somebody wearing like a fur-lined cloak that's not like super well made, not super rich, but well constructed, does sound more like the packman that we heard about than it does the guy from Clenny, where we know the fancy important guys wear suits and stuff like the Lord Ruler wears today. We did learn that like in Clenium they wear these suits, and he even mentioned at the time that some of the terracemen were giving up their fur outfits to wear these same suits. So that does kind of fit. Although we also know that the guy in the logbook started out as a shepherd or something. So maybe if you go far enough back, he would have worn some sort of similar outfit. I don't know.
I mean, I guess, but I feel like, of course, we don't know what Luthadel was like back then. But based on where it is on the map,
existed.
Right. I mean, it was called, I assume it's Clenny. I assume it's the same place. If it is the same place, since it's more central on the map, I would assume that it was not cold enough there that they would be wearing furs. But
that's a good point. Yeah, he does mention several times in the logbook that it's like very cold up north, and he's not used to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's stuff there that kind of agrees with you.
Even just like the stuff around the room, it's just like the pelts and the snowshoes and stuff like that. Like you were saying, that definitely sounds like something that would belong to the terracemen, because it's like, it seems like stuff from their culture. It's stuff that Vin doesn't recognize as being part of, her home culture. She's like, the hell's all this foreign stuff doing here? So just old trophies from his old life. Also, before we move on, I just want to point out, way back when we first came to this room, when Kelsier and Vin came here and got ambushed by the 3 Inquisitors, and we were taking bets on what was inside this room. I think I mentioned as a joke that this was going to be the Lord Ruler's little summer home. And was I right?
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that now.
It's definitely his hangout spot, that's for sure.
We had a bunch of crazy random theories about that place, and it was a spa. It was like a Spike Face spa or the Spike Face Barracks or something.
But I think we said something about, it's like, oh yeah, it's where the Lord Ruler just comes to chill with his homies. And I'm like,
yeah,
what? Fucking what?
Yeah.
Got his Xbox set up in there.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's not as dramatic as like a Lazarus pit, but it's pretty cool.
Lazarus pit is actually in the next room. You didn't make it there.
Yeah, he's like, sorry you can't stay. I would have. Yeah, there's a trapdoor. Yeah, sorry you couldn't stay longer, Vin. I was going to show you my Lazarus pit, but I guess the Inquisitor's going to take you away now. So
it's like that's why I said kill her. I want to test it out on someone else for once. It's like, hey, she's already here. Just kill her and dump her through the floor.
So I actually, when I was reading this part as we were reading the chapters this week, it made me think, Joe, how does this bode for your theories previously that she's the Lord Ruler's daughter, or possibly your theory last time?
Yeah,
like his wife, basically.
Yeah, the Inquisitors are pretty cocksure that this is the High Prelin's daughter, but I don't know. I feel like one child could have escaped his notice, but for him to keep having relations with that woman and then have another child and him still not know about it and he didn't get her killed, like, that just doesn't fit to me. It doesn't make
he was Reen's dad.
Right. Like, he may have been Reen's dad because Reen is older and he may not have realized that Reen was alive. But for him to keep going back to this woman and then have another child and not know about it, I just find that super hard to believe.
Yeah, but I mean, if he wasn't Reen's dad, then there was just the one child.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, and then my question is, well, then how does Reen fit in? Because we don't know that much about Reen, but it's Vin who's got these Mistborn powers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, if she inherited them from her dad, and that Tavidian actually was her dad, then I guess Reen could have been his son, but not gotten any powers, which happens. Elend apparently is that way. Or it could have been that Reen's dad was just some other dude. And
yeah, I still doesn't explain like the connection between her and the Lord Ruler, though. Like the allomantic connection. There is some kind of allomantic connection that exists between them that doesn't exist between Kelsier and him.
Because she can feel him better and stuff is what you mean, yeah?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe that just means she's a way more powerful Allomancer than Kelsier is, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I feel like that can't be ignored. There's something more to it than just, oh yeah, the Prelin was her dad, he's dead now, so her dad's dead. Like, I just feel like there's something more.
Didn't they make a comment that it was she had to come from an incredibly pure bloodline?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Like, you can't get much purer than the Lord Ruler himself.
Right.
That's true.
And I'm guessing the High Prelin was the High Prelin because his bloodline was so pure. Like, he was eligible to be that based on his bloodline, which is why the Inquisitors think it's that way. But at the same time, maybe the Inquisitors knew about the child, and they assume Vin is that child that the High Prelin had, but really it was Reen.
Mm.
And then also she had a sister, so that's actually 3 children that he wouldn't know about.
I'd totally forgotten about the sister. You kept saying another child. I'm like, well, there's only the 2. So, but no, you're right. There was she has a little sister that died. So
right, and the High Prelin says like she could have had 1 and I wouldn't have known, possibly. But to have 3 and he wouldn't have known, that seems
well, I mean,
super unlikely.
He did say that she had children by him. What he didn't know was that she was a Ska.
Right. Yeah. So I don't buy it. There's something more going on.
Okay.
Forget about 1 love baby, shame on me. Forget about 3 love babies, shame on you.
But I was thinking, with either of the previous theories that you had, you have to assume the Lord Ruler would recognize in some way that this person was significant. And all he says, like 2 times in this chapter, he's like, okay, kill her now. And they're like, oh, well, hold on. Can we not do it just yet? But he does not care about her in any way that we can see.
I mean, for all I know, the High Prelin was his son, and that's why he had such a pure bloodline.
Ooh.
And he's like, kill my son, I don't care. And, maybe Vin is then his granddaughter. Like, I don't know.
Okay. Okay, let's see. So apparently, Tavidian has already requested a gathering to discuss matters outside the palace, and the Inquisitor's like, oh, yeah, it would be good for him to be there. Good indeed. And then he knocks Vin the hell out, just like 1 smack. And it says, despite her pewter, all went black.
Yep, and then Chris Tucker jumps on her and just says, you got knocked the fuck out.
We cut to Elend. Another Ellen viewpoint. They're becoming a fad. It's like the 3rd or 4th one we've had now.
I mean, we've just lost Kelsier, so like we need to have like someone else to break it up.
That's true. Kelsier is gone. He got eaten by a gooey guy. We can't have respectful names for anything. It's like they're Inquisitors, sure, but Spike Faces. What did Jaymee call them? Or like piles of goo or something? Like you gotta find a good mean name for the Khandra now.
The Khandra specifically, or Miss Race?
Well, she said there can't be 2 like bone.
I was like glue
blobs.
Goo blobs or something. Gooey blobs.
Yeah, gooey blobs.
So we got Spike Faces and gooey blobs.
All right. Well, I'm gonna pitch that to Cartoon Network. The Goo Blobs.
I think that's been a show.
Oh.
I was about to go look up. I'm like, I know there was a show about gooey blobs, but we're not going there. Let's keep moving. Ellen's dad is getting ready to evacuate the city, and Ellen's like, hey, what's going on? And Lord Venture's like, there's a Ska rebellion. And Ellen's like, wait, what? And at first he's thinking, the Ska don't have the disposition for that sort of thing. He's like, oh, wait, Valette was a Ska. I have to stop thinking like a nobleman. And he's apparently researched this kind of thing. He's like, all these political theorists that I've read predicted that this sort of thing would happen. Tim Adre said that the Final Empire couldn't last forever, God at its head or not. It's finally happening. I'm living through it. And I'm on the wrong side. That's got to be a shocking realization there.
Wait, are we the bad guys?
Yes. You should know just from looking at your dad, dude, that this is the bad guy side. And I don't even know why Ellen's like, abandon the keep. Where's the honor in that? It's like, really? Lord Venture snorts at that. And I'm at the same time like, what did you think? Do you know your dad at all, Ellen? What are you?
I mean, it's just another case of oblivious Elend,
Yeah.
It's just like he doesn't even understand his father, who he's known his whole life, is a horrible person.
Mm-hmm. And Lord Venture's like, we were leaving anyway. Something happened at the pits, and the Lord Ruler's not going to be happy when he finds out. So apparently the Lord Ruler doesn't know yet that Kelsier destroyed the pits, and Straff Venture is not in the mood to tell him. So he was just going to leave.
Run away.
I kind of want to know how that would have gone. If everything had been calm and nothing else was happening, and Straff's just like, "Ooh, pits are gone. We're getting out of town." Like, are the Inquisitors coming after him at that point? Okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
So Ellen is thinking that so-and-so predicted that when the rebellion finally comes, the Ska will slaughter everyone wantonly. Every nobleman's life will be forfeit. The rebellion will die out quickly but leave piles of corpses in its wake. So, yeah, fun times. It reminds me, there's a line in one of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books where it's like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy describes this department at this company as like a bunch of jerks who would be the first up against the wall when the revolution comes. And then it's like, by a crazy coincidence, a copy of the guide that got sent into the past from the future had this entry about them, and it was like a bunch of jerks who were the first up against the wall when the revolution came. And this always reminds me of that, when he's like, every nobleman's life would be forfeit. Like, Ellen is going to be the first up against the wall now that the revolution has come. But he decides that he is going to stay.
Sorry, just the way you said that just, again, made me think of Thor Ragnarok. And it's like, Ellen's going to be standing in there, and all of a sudden, Korg the rock monster is going to kick in the door. It's like, the revolution has begun!
I didn't hand out to see that. Yeah.
I didn't hand out enough pamphlets. Yeah.
He fixed it this time. Pamphlets all for everyone.
So the only ones that showed up was my mom and her boyfriend, who I hate.
Right.
Funny, because you realize that he failed because he didn't hand out enough pamphlets. So in a way, Rock was beaten by paper.
Oh. And there was a scissors guy who died,
Yep.
but then didn't actually die. Like, hey, he's alive.
What was you questioning him, bro?
And like Strap Venture argues with him for a while. He's like, no, you're coming. If I say you're coming, then you are coming. And Ellen's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And he's like, no, we have to stop the rebellion from getting out of hand. We should be their allies against the Lord Ruler. And finally, Strap Venture is like, you know what? Sounds good. You stay here. Somebody should maintain our presence in the city while I rally our forces. Yep, great idea. And that's when Ellen realizes, oh, so he is assuming that either the rebellion will kill me or the Lord Ruler, when he finds out whatever happened, I'll be here to take the fall for that. So either way, he gets rid of me. I'm really not very good at this, am I? He thinks to himself.
Well, I mean, he's getting a bit better than the fact that he recognized that now.
True. And I mean, it's not like it would have changed his mind if he recognized it from the beginning. He would still be determined to stay, but it's just...
It's like, I'm beginning to think this was a mistake. Raccoon agrees.
And then Lord Venture is like, oh yeah, you can have pretty much all the soldiers. I can only get one boat out. It was such a mess. Good luck, boy. Say hello to the Lord Ruler in my absence. And then he laughs as he leaves. Guy, what a jerk.
Yeah. It's like Willie getting hit with an axe. He's just like, I'm bad at this.
I'm bad at this.
I immediately regret this decision.
This is indeed a disturbing universe. Okay. So, Ellen decides he's going to take all their forces, and they're going to go to keep Lacal because it's more defensible. And we know his friend is Jastes Lacal, so he knows somebody there at least. But he wants the 5 best soldiers to be his honor guard because he's going somewhere else. So where do you think we will see Ellen pop up?
He's going to go present himself to the Scar Rebellion. It's like, I wish to help you. And Breeze is going to be like, man, fuck this guy. But then Doc's going to be like, nah. Vin's got a crush on him. Let's hear him out.
Doxson does seem like he would be maybe more considerate. Although we know that Doxson has always been on Kelsier's side of kill all the noblemen, whereas Breeze is secretly a nobleman. So
That's true.
Maybe he would be a little more accepting.
Well, Breeze is the politician. He's the one who has to like set up alliances and stuff like that. And
It's true.
so, yeah.
He's also super lazy though, so it makes you wonder like how good a politician he's going to turn into. We jump back to Vin, and Vin awoke to wetness, and she's in pain, and somebody forces some metal down her throat and says, tells her to swallow and burn it. And she thinks, oh no, if it's like a bad metal, it might kill me. And then she's like, wait, there's much easier ways to kill me than that. Like, that would really be like going kind of far. They wait for you to wake up and then feed you a metal that they'll force you to burn to kill you. But
there's one Inquisitor in the corner with an axe, like, guys, I could just take her head off, and the others are just like, no, it has to be this way.
This is the special way. It tenderizes the meat well for when we cook her up later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. The Inquisitors are probably not cannibals. Not that we've seen
I mean-
anyway.
I'm not going to rule that out.
Of course you're not.
That's fair. I mean, they're pretty horrible dudes. So
Yeah. Hey, Mike. Yeah, you got some human blood on your spike. Oh, again? All right. Well.
The spikes are through the eyes. Like, if they're cannibalizing it, why is the blood on the spike? Was he
You know,
using it as a pillow?
they're diving in there for a bite,
Yeah.
like a dog.
Or, they're just hacking and slashing away at a body, and it happens that way.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, you get pretty messy that way. I'm sure. Yeah, maybe they have some good showers in there. So it turns out that what this metal seems to do is it gets rid of all of her other metals. That's a new one.
It could be helpful because, like she said, if she had ingested a poisonous metal, and then she ingested this one, maybe she could burn that one to get rid of the poisonous one.
Interesting thought. I hadn't even considered that.
Yeah.
Although if it gets rid of all the metals in your body, you would die, I guess.
True. It must be selective about which metals it's. Yeah. She says all her reserves disappear. So I don't know. Maybe it's just allomantic ones that it's.
Yeah, I think it's just specifically all the burnable metals.
Whatever supply you swallowed to. But yeah, she's like, wait, so there's like a 12th metal? There's more. Yeah, it looks like there are. And we did talk about this possibility a long time ago. Just the fact that an 11th metal existed was an instant thing that's like, oh, they don't understand allomancy as well as they think they do if there can be another metal. So the fact that there's now a 12th one, it actually makes more sense than having an uneven number, since we know so far they've all been like pairs. Well, except for we thought the gold and adium were a weird pair. Now we've got a new one that's maybe paired better with gold. This one doesn't seem like it would be the pair to adium or anything, does it?
So this would actually be like the 13th then, because
No.
if you got gold and alloy, adium and alloy, so that's 9, 10, 11, 12. So then this reset metal is 13. So
Yeah, assuming that it's not in some way an alloy of adium, but it doesn't seem to do something similar to adium, so it makes more sense, you're right, for it to be like a 13th. So there could be a lot.
And if there's one metal that can wipe your metals, is there one metal that can give you all the metals?
I don't know if it would give
Everything
you more
alloy.
metals or just like give you more of whatever metal you already have.
Like it would increase your reserve. Like if you swallowed all the metals that were allomantic and then you took some of this, it would just like double the reserves you have somehow.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I feel like that makes
double that
more sense
potency.
than like creating metal out of thin air that you didn't already have, especially if it was one they didn't even know about. And it's like, oh, hey, here's like every metal.
Yeah.
So I feel like just increasing
like,
what you already have kinda makes more sense.
It's like the Harry Potter laws of magic. It's like I can duplicate things that exist, but I cannot create new matter.
Well, you can't create certain things. They are the exemptions to Gramps' law of primary transfiguration or whatever it was called.
Ooh, look, he knows the name of the law. How fancy.
She can't create food, but there are other things that they can create out of thin air.
yeah, they've created things out of thin air before.
They can create water out of thin air with the like water out of your wand spell.
Well, I thought she was specific in saying like you can summon them if you know where they are, but you can't like create it.
She said that about food. She's like, you can summon it, you can like change it into other forms, but you can't create food.
Anyway, like we were saying, so yeah, maybe there's something that can increase the reserves, since there's something that can take them away. Clearly.
Yeah.
Really, at this point, we have no idea. There could be like a million different magical possibilities here, which
Yeah,
could be a little
or
bit
maybe
daunting.
they can. Yeah, or maybe they can create their own allomantic metals. Like it's like I want to create a metal that does this, and so they have like a lab where they experiment and create stuff.
Turns out the Inquisitors are all just a bunch of allomancy nerds. All right, let's just try this and see if this works.
They got like all these test tubes and Bunsen burners and things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows? Because the ice spikes, I mean, we don't know what those are made out of. Is it just like an unlimited reserve of metal? Do these guys ever actually have to ingest new metal?
Maybe that was just the best way they thought that they could absorb the metals. It was just a horrible lab accident. And they then have decided that this is terrifying. We'll just keep going. Yeah, we meant to do that.
Yeah.
Something
this guy's like,
blew up, some railway spikes flew across the room into one guy's head,
Yep.
and he's just like, oh, this actually works better.
That's how I'm picturing it now. Yep.
he's just screaming, hey, wait, actually, this isn't so bad.
Oh gosh. So Vin is desperately searching her cell for some metal. Like, they're going to have left you some metal when they just stripped you of all of your metals. I'm wondering if she has her earring on her. I don't think she mentions that, but I think her earring's made of like bronze or something, which would not be very useful right now. So there's basically like a couple of pages of her just desperately searching for something and realizing she's not going to have any allomancy to help her. She needs to figure out something else and kind of being depressed about it.
Yeah, I almost like picture her trying to lick the bars, like, give me some metal, please.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. And here's where she actually discussed, she's like, gold, the moment I burned the 11th metal felt like when I was burning gold. And she has the same discussion we did, where it's like gold and adium seem like a weird pair. Maybe this one makes more sense to be an alloy of adium or gold. I don't know. We've been talking about it as an alloy of gold, but does it make more sense to be an alloy of adium, where one shows you another person's future and the other one shows you another person's past?
That's sort of what I thought. It made more sense for it to, that would become the 9th metal, and gold is something else.
So then what is I guess, if it followed that same push and pull, whatever the gold complement was would have to show you your future.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way I think that's the only way that logically works.
I guess, but adium has such other properties that that gold and the 11th metal don't seem to have. I just don't see them fitting together.
Okay.
Like, because adium springs forth all these future possibilities, immediate future possibilities, but it also says it gives you the clarity to like understand. Whereas I feel like anytime when she burned gold and when she burned the 11th metal, she was just super confused. Like, there was no clarity involved with what she was doing or seeing.
True.
So she theorizes that they've just never discovered these because gold and adium are too valuable to go around forging into a bunch of different alloys to figure out what they do. And she decides that it wasn't very useful, just like Kelsier said, because what difference did it make what the Lord Ruler could have been? What matters is who he is now. Which, yeah, that's a point. Then an Inquisitor shows up dressed in a black robe with his spike heads jutted from the front of the cowl. And she's like, I've always been this slow without pewter. She's really out of her element now without allomancy, which is kind of funny.
Yep, she's Donnie in the Big Lebowski.
But she notes that this is the guy with some arrowhead wounds in him, and he's healed remarkably quickly. We know that pewter doesn't help you heal from like crazy serious wounds super quickly. It helps you not die from them, like when she got sliced up, but it took her weeks to heal. So something else is going on with these guys. And they go up to the Lord Ruler's, I guess, throne room, because there's a big old throne there. Maybe he just has like several rooms with big thrones in them. I don't know. But the wall is like one giant curved piece of glass that has some designs on it of like what she thinks is kind of like looks like the mist, I guess.
Can't wait to see that in the movie. That'll look cool.
Yeah. And the Lord Ruler sits in his elevated throne looking like the young man who had killed Kelsier before. And she's still confused, but she's like, no, this is the same guy. I can feel him. He feels the same way. And so Tavidian, he wants to talk about what's happening outside in the city. The Ska blaspheme in riots, attacking the keeps of the nobility. And the Lord Ruler does not care. He's like, good. You gotta kill him every once in a while, just keep him off balance. So whatever. And this part, because the more they talk about it, he's just like, yeah, no, whatever. And
guys, I don't care. I want to go back to my painting.
Well, yeah, but it makes me curious what you guys think, because he seems to have enough confidence in himself and his abilities that he doesn't need to worry about anything. So does that make him scarier or like less scary? Because he's not like this mastermind that we were thinking before we met him, where he knows everything and is like a chess player. He just doesn't care. But maybe he's strong enough that he doesn't have to care. So is that more or less scary?
Well, I think more scary. There's no consequence for him. He knows he's going to get through it, which I think is terrifying, because it means literally everyone else doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're noble, whether you're Scar, whether you're an Inquisitor. Like, you are just another thing, and you can be replaced. And he doesn't care.
Yeah, and when they talk about Trevidian asks him, well, what if the Ska keep rebelling and then oppose you? He's like, I'll take care of it. I don't really care. I can destroy them. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, I think that to me is pretty intimidating. Because you have to assume, I mean, either he's right and he really can do what he's implying, at least, that he can do, or he's like nuts, like he's stupid because he doesn't know enough to know that he can't destroy this whole city with his bare hands. But he's been in charge for 1,000 years, so you have to assume that he does know what he's talking about.
He firmly believes that he will always come out on top, and that he can let this go. He can let people think they're doing the right things. At the end of the day, it's all for nothing, because he knows that however he wants it to go, that's how it will go.
Is he right? I know we already talked about how's this book can end, like 2 episodes in a row, but now I'm curious. Do we think that he's right?
I think long term he's wrong, but I think in terms of this book, he's probably still right.
Okay. Do you guys agree?
I'm hanging on to my thoughts because I want to save it for predicaments.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I feel like he just doesn't because I feel like he is confident in his ability to take care of the Ska if he needs to, because he doesn't think much of them, and he's just like, I'll take care of it. It's not that big a deal. I can destroy them because they're nothing. But I think he's also underestimating Vin, not Vin specifically, but anybody who's going to oppose him, because I honestly think, which again, I've got something in predicaments as well that I want to talk about for what's coming after this book, but I honestly think that people are going to find out his secrets. He's got some secrets that are going to undo him, and I think that's where we're headed long term.
Okay. Sorry to get us so far off. I was just curious while we were talking about it. So he just shouts down his priests and Tavidian who want to do something, and he's like, no, the Inquisitors have something they want to talk about. Okay, so let's do that now. And the Inquisitors want to be in charge, which Marsh kind of told us about this, the politicking and infighting that goes on, and the Inquisitors, they want to be on top, and apparently they have petitioned several times to be put in charge of the ministry, and the Lord Ruler's like, no, you guys are needed for more important stuff than just administrating the entire empire, basically. Administering. That's the actual word, just in case anyone wonders.
That just made me think of an Inquisitor just sitting at a desk just going, oh God, what do we have to do on the iron tax this year? We have to increase that by 2%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is an odd picture of like they're just sitting behind a desk, like scribbling on paper.
There's an Inquisitor with a stock ticket just going, oh shit, this doesn't look good, guys.
Gold futures are down.
I don't know, I feel like it doesn't matter where we are in the book, I will always find amusement in picturing an Inquisitor doing something utterly mundane.
Like cleaning that blood off his spikes.
Yeah, or he's chopping up some meat in the house, and he's like, Karen, where's the butter knife?
Also interesting that, this is the first time we get a name for an Inquisitor.
Yep.
And I totally misread it the first time. I thought, wait, is the Inquisitor's name Carl? But no, it's just Carl.
Carl the Inquisitor. That would be awesome.
Yeah, Carl and Karen, they live, they're married. They're thinking about having kids, but he's not sure what his sperm will do to her now that he's all inquisitored. So they're thinking about adopting, but he just doesn't know how he feels about it yet.
It's like, Jesus Christ, my baby looks like a TIE fighter.
Oh, no. Okay, so he asks he asked Lord Freeland if he recognizes the girl, and he's like, no, of course I don't. And he's like, oh yeah? Well, why don't you tell the Lord Ruler who your father is, child? And she says she doesn't know. And it turns out the Lord Ruler is a lie detector also. He's kind of Toph from Avatar, where it's like, Carr has a whole speech about how awesome the Lord Ruler is, and how he's learned to use Alavancy like no mortal man. He can read your emotions in your eyes and see things in the way your heart beats. And he knows when you lie. Oh, yes, he knows. It's just very... He's a brown-noser, is what I'm getting from this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's got to get ahead in life. He's got to provide for Karen. He's doing what he has to do.
This is the first time the Lord Ruler actually shows some interest in anything. He's like, now this is interesting. That girl just lied to me. What is she going to say? And he walks down and grabs her face and looks in her eyes. And he's like, who is your father? And Vince thinking she can sense his godlike power. That power is real. It's there. She can sense or see in him, and she fully believes that he could slaughter every person in the city by himself if he needed to, with the kind of power that she can sense in him. He has no need to fear rebellion. He'd never needed to. Kelsier had made a terrible, terrible mistake. That's kind of scary. And he gets her to say that, like, her brother told her that the Lord Prelin was her father. And there's a weird scene where after he turns away, it says tears rolled down her cheeks. She couldn't remember why she'd been crying. And the Lord Ruler basically gets him to admit that he didn't know that there's one woman, he didn't know she was a Ska at first, sent a soldier to kill her, but he let her go. Eventually he got her. So from this we take that Vin's mother is dead now. Probably won't be showing up again, assuming that he is actually her father. And that is the woman that we're talking about, which I guess is not 100% still. Although everything seems to fit together at this point, more or less. And after he admits what happened, and the Lord Ruler says, did she bear any children? And he said yes. And the Lord Ruler sighs and goes, he's yours. And 6 of the Inquisitors, howling in joy, pull obsidian knives and run across the room to stab him repeatedly.
This was the scariest part of the chapter. It's like, holy fuck, these guys are just off the leash.
That's exactly what I had, off the leash.
It's crazy, too, because then he's like, yeah, okay, you're in charge, that's fine. It's like, yeah, let's put the crazy guys in charge of, like, the aristocracy. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I assume that it's basically they're in charge of the whole final empire, except for whatever decisions the Lord Ruler makes. You got to assume that he's not sitting around in an office filling out paperwork either. He's the God Emperor. Other people can do the actual work. So, yeah, they're probably in charge of like everything at this point.
He's too busy looking at his old paintings.
Where'd I put my diary?
Yeah, that's what he's wondering. He's like, where'd my diary go? I've been looking for that thing. Blood flew as they plunged their daggers over and over again into the dying man.
Meanwhile, I've actually missed this before. The other obligators are just like, shit, okay.
Yep.
It's like, oh, I forgot you guys were in the room.
It's not fun for anybody, I guess. And so, yeah, this is the guy who was, after the Lord Ruler, basically in charge of the whole world. And in a second, the Lord was like, okay, take him. No one gets any consideration in this society.
Yeah, that's why, like, I really think all of these things are so beneath him. Even the idea that Vin could be his daughter, like, he doesn't even think to try and recognize her if she is his daughter. It's just like, everything's so beneath him. He's just like, whatever. Yeah,
I can see that now that you say it that way. Yeah. He tells Carr, your point is proven. It seems I have trusted too much in the obedience of mankind. I did not make a mistake. I have never made a mistake. However, it's time for a change. This guy.
And that's an interesting distinction he's making. It's like, I've trusted too much in mankind. So, like, are the Inquisitors not men anymore? Well, maybe they consider themselves, like, demigods. So that's...
It's like the population considers them creatures, so...
Right.
Yeah. From the very beginning, like, Kelsier was like, those things. So I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point. That differentiates mankind is one thing, and the Inquisitors are a different thing. We talked about earlier how apparently the Lord Ruler is willing to look at what's gone wrong and revise his approach to government. And we were actually talking about it as a positive, like, oh, this guy's willing to admit when something's gone wrong and make changes. But not personally, apparently. He's like, I've never made a mistake, by the way. But it's time for a change. Get everybody out of their beds, and they can witness as I grant the Canton of Inquisition authority over the ministry. And then the half-breed child will be destroyed. Because, of course. And that is the end of the chapter. I mean, other than, can we not destroy her immediately? She was working with some other people that we want to find.
He's like, oh, yeah, that's your job.
Go ahead. Once again, he's at this point, it's like he's gotten bored and stopped caring again. Like, yeah, whatever. Just go do your thing. But yeah, that is where these 2 chapters end, and we are 2 chapters and an epilogue from the end of this book. We are 94% of the way through. Things took a turn here. They took a couple turns. They took the turn into like, oh my gosh, the whole city's actually going to rise up against the Lord Ruler. And then it took a different turn of, oh crap, that might not matter. So yeah, let us move into the predicaments section. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So I still think that Vin is actually the Lord Ruler's daughter. I'm going to hold on to that. I think there's still too much up in the air with the High Prelin to really rule that out.
This is
Now he's
Joe's
all over the floor,
volcanoes.
too.
This is the hill where Joe is going to die on, like the volcanoes for Dak.
Yeah, but at least that one is plausible.
Well, I'm predicting a swift exit for the rebellion. I'm hoping that all of the team members remain intact, but I don't think it's going to end well for them with this specific rebellion. I think coming to predicting the end of the book, Vin's going to have to leave Luthadel without defeating the Lord Ruler, because I know the title of the next book is The Well of Ascension, and the epigraphs we've read so far have indicated that some choice had to be made to take a power or save mankind with a power. I am assuming that Vin is going to travel to the Well of Ascension in the next book, and she is going to make a decision on whether or not to take power, and that will make her into the hero of ages or whatever. That's where I predict this series going in the long run, and immediately into the next book, she's going to have to regroup and travel, make that journey north to the Well of Ascension in order to gain powers or take down the Lord Ruler once and for all. So I still think the deepness is in play somehow. I'm almost wondering now if, like, Rashek, as the Lord Ruler, made a deal with the deepness and it was like, look, I'll your will be done through these inquisitors that I'll create, these men that will become part of you, and by extension you'll be able to destroy and wreak havoc under my name. And somehow he struck a deal with the deepness to do that. Or maybe not. Maybe the deepness is really gone, or maybe it's still manifested in the Lord Ruler. But that's where my predictions are kind of leaning towards on that end. I'm still holding out some small glimmer of hope that somehow Kelsier will reappear in more than a Kandra form, whether that be Jedi Ghost or something. I'd really love for him to be able to come back in some way, but I understand that that's probably not going to happen.
You will go to the Northern Dominance. There you will learn from Gemel, the Alamancer who instructed me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Any other predictions you want to throw out there?
Not that I have formulated, no.
Okay. Who else would like a chance?
I'll go. I have maintained for a lot of this book, and so I think it was actually how you described it to us initially, is like this first book is its own self-contained story. And so, even if you don't read any of the other books in this franchise, in this trilogy, in this series, like, you still get a complete story in this book. Mm-hmm. So I think I've sort of internalized that and thought they will bring down the Empire somehow. So I know there's not really a lot of time left to do it. And so I've been wondering, just like, oh God, how can they pull it off? There's not a lot of time left in the book. And I think this last chapter has actually given me the key to all that, because there's like, how can we stop the Lord Ruler? How can we defeat him? We can take down the nobility, but we've still got him to deal with. And now I think I've got it. It's like simple. The Lord Ruler is just gonna fucking leave. He just seems so bored and disinterested with everything going on, and he says it's time for a change. So, and we know that he's previously changed things a lot over the centuries, just like, all right, that system of government didn't work, let's just move on. So now I'm thinking he's just watching this rebellion play out, and he's just gone, you know what, let's see what they do, I'm out. And he's just going to stand back and watch the Scar Rebellion take over the city. They'll come to blows with the Inquisitors, and he's like, all right, whichever side wins, they can rule, and then I'm just going to see how they do. So I think at the end of this book, the Empire will topple, and I think the Rebellion will win somehow. I don't know how they're going to take down the Inquisitors, but I feel like the Lord Ruler is just going to be like, all right, let's see how you do. Just because he just doesn't seem to care about anything else now. So he's just like, fuck it, this might be interesting.
Do you think Lord Ruler and Lord Venture are going to sail off into the sunset somewhere? Just let it burn.
Lord Venture, I don't know if he's going to die this book, but he's going to die, and it will just be like, suck it.
You don't think that he can get away with all the stuff he's done, like Sean? It's like there's got to be a reckoning.
It's just like, I don't know what it is about. You think about it, how it is with some villains. in books, it's like, yeah, like the main evil is like this horrible, horrific evil over the top. But then you look at smaller villains like Shan, Elariel, and Strath Venture, and it's like, yeah, but these guys are deliberately dicks. So they are more likely to. It's the Voldemort versus Umbridge thing. It's like, yeah, but like this is a more realistic sort of thing that I recognize as something I can't stand. So you're more happy to see them fall.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Like Umbridge is a good example. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, and I'm sorry, before we even get to Jamie's predictions, I just keep interrupting. Now is probably the time to talk about it because Jaymee has theorized about it before, but we've gotten to the point where it's hard to not realize what's going on. But the Sanderlanche is a term. It's also, people call it the Sanderson Avalanche. There's a few other similar terms. The way he sets up his plots in these books, there's lots of lining everything up, and then you get into like the last 20%, sometimes less. Things start happening and they speed up and they keep happening and speeding up, and more all the little plot threads start coming together and getting tied off and getting resolved faster and faster until you get to the end of the book. Like it starts going at some point like 15-20% from the end, and it does not stop. And that is what the Sanderlanche is. That is what we have named the podcast after.
Would you say the last 6% in particular is quite avalanche-y?
Well, what he has said in the annotations, and I skipped over it at the time, was the chapter before Kelsier dies, the chapter where he runs out and he decides he's going to go out and stop stuff from happening. He's like, I feel like this is where the Sanderson Avalanche really starts going in this book. And I will say, in answer to your question, is that it does not stop now. We have not reached the end of this. And it generally continues to accelerate as you get toward the end. So there's an epigraph that maybe just by virtue of being called the epigraph, you might get an idea is more to tie things up than to continue ramping up the story. But we've got 2 chapters left that are not epigraph, and things are not going to slow down. Maybe that's a spoiler, but that you asked a question and I answered the question. So.
Yep.
Yeah, so that is the Sanderlanche. I was kind of hoping at some point somebody would be like, man, it really feels like this story just like started moving and it hasn't slowed down at all. And I was going to be like, that's the Sand. No, nobody said it, and so I figured I'd just throw it out there.
And I think it may be by virtue of the fact of how our show is formatted, where we are only reading portions. Like if I read the whole last 20% of the book all at one time, I might say that.
Yeah, definitely. We're kind of forcing it to slow down by virtue of how we're doing the show. So that makes complete sense too. Yeah. Which actually for you guys should just get like continually more frustrating as the action, we're in the middle of the action and we're cutting off chapters. Like, yep, you have to stop. Which is part of the reason I set it up that way. I thought it would be fun for the audience and me. But anyway.
Yes, we are the lab rats.
So Jaymee, please, what do you have for the predicament section this time?
Yeah. So, look, I had forgotten about the complete story thing. I didn't think that we would see the end of this story in this story. But now that I remember that changes things, I guess, a little bit. But going with what I thought previously, Vin will not die with her time with the Inquisitors. It usually doesn't end well for people, so I'm not really sure about the horrors she's going to face shortly. I'm curious to see where Elend will pop up, at what point he pops up, and how that will be taken by the crew. I can't believe that they'll just be like, oh, yeah, cool. In you come, mate. You're part of the crew now. Well, we're down a few people. Ramp up our numbers. I'm not quite sure, but there's definitely more to his part of the story. I am really happy with some of the answers we've got to earlier predictions in these chapters, which sort of makes me think that we're on the right track with Reshek being the Lord Ruler and what's going to happen with him now. I would feel quite unsatisfied if he did just go away. I think that there needs to be some kind of showdown here, but I really don't think we would get that in this story. So, I don't really have a prediction as such of how it's going to end. We've only got 2 chapters to go, and it sounds like a lot of stuff still to happen. So, not helpful this week.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's got to be a showdown, but if my theory is correct and he decides to step down, maybe it's because Vin forces him to look in, and it's like we were talking about when we first found out about Gold. She forces him to look at what he could have been, and like he has that introspection, just like, oh fuck, and so maybe he just takes off as a result of that. He says, "What have I become?"
He's like, it's been 1,000 years. I've got to go find myself.
Well, because like journaling isn't doing it anymore.
Well, because like you said, like the second book is titled The Well of Ascension. Presumably Vin goes there. Maybe she follows him there because he goes back to where it all began for him, and he's trying to work out what happened, and she chases him.
She's he's her Yoda.
Dun dun dun.
That's
I just can't see him caring too much now.
That's true.
Like if someone showed him this is what you could have become, what have you done with your life? Oh my goodness. I just don't see him really caring about that. He's like, yep, that's a thing.
He's like,
time has passed.
He's like,
So be
I'm
it.
the ruler of the world. I think I made the right decision.
But Vin knows the power of love, and maybe that will triumph over everything else.
Yeah, Ellen will show up and they'll like be like, I choose heart, and then stuff will happen. Captain Planet
Vin has something
will
to fight
appear.
for.
Yeah,
Friendship,
the Planeteers will show up. Yeah.
That's funny because like they say gold is the useless metal, and I did think at one point it's like, so gold is the heart of the planet rings, because heart was the worst of the Planeteers rings.
Oh, you said planet rings, and despite the fact that we were just talking about Planeteers, I was like Saturn's rings, and I was like, what is he? Okay, I'm following.
Yep. I was like, yeah, I did not pick my words right there. I did that a lot.
Okay, we hit some interesting stuff. In case anyone hasn't understood it from what we've said so far, for next week we will be finishing this book. We will be reading chapters 37, 38, and the epilogue, which I called half a chapter before, but looking at it now, it's only slightly shorter than chapter 37, so I guess it's a pretty lengthy epilogue. So yeah, 3 chapters-ish for next time, 37, 38, and the epilogue, and
we are not going to stop after 38 and then do a separate episode on the epilogue.
No. And the
37 in a row?
Oh no. The plan after that is we have a plan to do a most accurate prediction segment in the episode following, and the 11th medal in that same episode, which is a short story that was originally written for the Mistborn Adventures RPG. They asked him to write some piece of original fiction that would help introduce the universe to people who were wanting to play the RPG but hadn't read the books. And so that's the 11th medal, which subsequently got published in the collection of Cosmere's short stories, which is Arcanum Unbounded, which is where you guys get to read it from, because that's the book that I sent you. And we'll talk a little more about that next time when we get to the final end, but I just wanted to let everybody know up ahead of time. It should be very exciting.
Awesome.
I'm guessing that some of you may jump into reading these final 3 bits quickly this week, since we're so close and it's so frustrating not to know how it ends. I know I would.
Look, the last few weeks we've pretty much been like, finish recording, right? Read the chapters, and then whichever one of us got to the book first hands it to the other one.
And one of the hardest parts is like, I'll read a chapter or something and then have to go and do something, and then Tom will pick it up and he'll be further than I do, and then I'm like, oh, you've read more than I have. And then we can't talk about it.
Other room. He's like, oh my god, really? And you're like, shut up, I don't want to know. Was there gasping
This
when
week he was
Kelsier died?
Oh. No, I think that was kept under wraps.
Oh, okay.
I was
actually. I don't know. I think I kind of just went, wait, what?
Yeah. I was kind of like, that's it, huh? Well,
that's it for him. But Joe had his theories about how he would continue to live. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a question actually.
Yeah.
Can a Khandra does a Khandra need a whole skeleton? Because maybe he's done like a worm tail and cut off his finger, and that's enough for the Khandra.
What we know from the Mist Wraiths is that they can take bits and pieces that they like and make little bits of them. But I don't know that we know. I want to look what he says about the Mist Wraiths, because I feel like it. Well, I'm not going to say that if it doesn't actually say it. 1 second while I search.
It's like, he's creating a perfect copy of their skin and muscles and stuff when he doesn't have the skin and muscles. Or at least most of the time, I don't think they do. But I guess he had straight away access to Kelsey's body here, so.
Also, what's the process? Does he just stand over the body and just like start devouring bones, like no one notices, or what? Like,
That's
you
a
see
really
him
good
like in
question.
the corner, just like
Hey.
scoffing his face full of bones. Does he have to bone them?
There's some guards there standing. It's like, so this is the survivor's body. Oh God, what is that thing doing to it?
It didn't sound like they put any guards in place. Like, they just left all the dead people laying there. Okay, what Kelsier says about Myth's race originally, when he's explaining them to Vin, is that they can shape their skin around any skeletal structure and can recreate muscles and organs if they have a model to mimic. So it sounds like to mimic the shape of a face, for instance, you would have to eat the face. That's what it sounds like to me based on that. And I thought he said that like they have to mimic the model of what they're recreating, but I had to look at that first to make sure that I wasn't wrong.
So it's like, even though we talk about, they're taking the bones, he's really taking everything.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, what happens is they do take the bones, but they eat the rest. But once they've eaten it, they can like mimic what they had. Anyway, so I don't think they could recreate a Kelsier from a finger, is where that ends
Probably
up.
not.
But we don't know that for certain, I suppose.
Not with that attitude.
I mean, I guess really, the main thing about Kelsier that people need to recognize Kelsier is his face. So you could probably do it from like a skull and attach that to a different body, and nobody would really notice. But
Chances are, though, Kelsier wouldn't still be alive if he was missing his face.
Yeah.
If his skull is gone, I think
Probably not.
I think it's.
I mean-
I think it's bye-bye.
The Lord Ruler could survive decapitation. Maybe Kelsier could, but
they have
maybe
said
not.
Yeah, but they still had to put the head back on, didn't they? And we've seen the
Don't
Lord
know
Ruler.
that.
His head is back on. It's back on a body.
it's true. So I
It may or may not be his.
yeah,
Jesus
we don't.
Christ, did they Frankenstein the Lord Ruler?
That's how he survived. Decapitation.
Kelsier did die. Kelsier did die in the pits of Hatsin. He's been a Khandra this whole time, and now a new Khandra's taken over his body.
That would be weird.
Whoa.
Places.
I mean, I guess
did
it's
he
just
have
like
to kill the other Khandra to do it, or did he just like they just trade?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
All right, my turn. My turn.
I turn with the survivor bones. I guess he also says he survived lots of stuff, is what we find out from what we've heard. The Lord Ruler survived all sorts of crap. I don't know that it doesn't tell us how he survived. Maybe they put his body back on something else. Maybe his body grew a new head. Maybe his body grew a new head and his head grew a new body, and there's two of them. We don't know. But yeah, there's a whole new rabbit hole of theory. There's two of
Jesus.
somewhere.
That
It wasn't really a
represents
vision.
well.
The Lord Ruler could sense that Vin was burning this metal and said to his other self, "Come on, now's the time.
Jump out from hiding right now.
It's your scene."
Well, I mean, we did see the old Lord Ruler and the young Lord Ruler, so maybe
We totally did.
maybe it's not Ferakemi. Maybe it's just different people.
It's the prestige, and we just haven't realized this whole time is that's what's happening. Okay. Anybody have anything they want to say before we're done for the episode?
Nope, I'm done.
Okay. Music by Miracle of Sound. Reading the last chapters of the book for the next episode. Everybody, I told you guys at the beginning of the episode that we didn't have any emails. That was kind of a lie because we had one email, but it was a guy wanting me to ask you guys a question that I specifically didn't want to ask because it was potentially, not necessarily spoiler, it might put you in a frame of mind that would spoil you for something that was upcoming. And so I replied back to Peter, thank you for your email, that I was like, I've been avoiding saying exactly what you're asking, like explicitly, because I don't want to plant ideas. So I'm going to try to slip it subtly into this episode, and instead of asking directly, if I can find a good place for it. So thank you, Peter. I hope that I was able to do your question justice by how I slipped information into the episode and got their ideas. And,
Ooh.
thank you for your email. If anybody else wants to send us emails about, questions that you'd like to ask, like Peter did, that's fine. Just in this particular case, I was like, let's be a little careful with that particular question. But feel free to send us questions you want to ask, especially now that we're about to hit the end of the book. If you send questions after this episode, we won't get them in time to record the one where we're getting to the end of the book, but we will get them in time for the best predictions episode. So I will be happy to ask any questions that you want, about what they thought about the book or about any particular part of the book on that episode, so that we can get reactions, anything that I've forgotten to ask them how they felt about or whatever. Feel free, send us emails, thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Tweet us at the Sanderlanche. We're on Facebook. We are on Instagram, the Sanderlanche. All the same name, every place. Feel free to send us questions, praise, criticisms, hate mail, whatever. The last one might make me sad, but I'm not gonna censor you. Send what you like. But other than that, I think that's everything that we need to hit on. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bring out the brother in me. I'm searching for unity. Everything is changing.